Hey, everybody, thanks for sticking with us. We're so glad to have you join our last session of the night, talking about esports, followed by an awesome exhibition game. First and foremost, thank you so much to RIoT sponsors, and a big thank you to tonight's title sponsor, Fourscore Law. You guys are awesome. Thank you again. So let's go ahead and get started. With 4 of the biggest game studios, Red Storm, Insomniac Games, X Games, and RIoT locating offices in North Carolina, it's become a place on the map for esports. Over 380 million people worldwide watched an esports event this year. It's over a $1 billion industry with a projected $82 billion more in investments happening over the next 5 years. The technology and entertainment surrounding esports is exploding. I'm really excited to be able to talk to a group of people right in the thick of it. So joining us today are Paul Christensen, head coach of the Barton E-College sports team, and one of his awesome players, Mitchell McKittrick, along with Aaron Taylor, head coach of the JV esports team from NC State, and one of their varsity players, Harrison Ramsey. Glad to have you all with us, and welcome. All right, Paul, let's get started with you. So you're the head coach of the esports team at Barton College. It's located in Wilson, North Carolina, who's one of our favorite peoples. Wilson is a gigabit city and home to Greenlight, a community broadband service. Now, I know that your arena has a dedicated gigabit of broadband service, courtesy of Greenlight, and a state-of-the-art gaming arena. How has that partnership and that technology affected your team's competitiveness?
Yeah, so it's been absolutely amazing. When you look at esports, it's growing so rapidly, and to have a dedicated gig in our arena from Greenlight, it's been huge. And so having them as a partner with us has been great. I think Mitchell even has the logo on the side of his jersey that we play with. But yeah, there it is. So we're definitely thankful for Greenlight, and it's just big. It's not only big for when we're competing, because speed is everything in esports. Especially connecting and not lagging in anything, and also for our recruiting as well too. So I think we definitely have one of the fastest arenas in North Carolina and potentially even in the country. So we're very lucky and fortunate to be a small school, but competing against some of the bigger schools like NC State too, it's definitely a benefit to us. So
small but mighty, that's awesome. Has the partnership and the technology brought something exciting to your coaching methods and abilities?
Yeah, so overall, I just was working in here. Michael Everett with the Carolina Game Summit, he helped us set up our arena. And we were actually just looking at our streaming setup in here too, and the things that we can do not only with the internet. So you see, Mitchell's actually in our green room right now. So we're getting everything set up for shoutcasting and getting our media and technology and everything embedded. So it's moving fast, and if you have a time to come down to Wilson and come see our arena, definitely please stop by. And set up a time and to see it, because it's really awesome with the lights and how many stations we have too. So it's really great.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So Aaron, over to you. So I know the NC State team is a club team and not sponsored by the school. With players often using their own equipment, what is the bar or benchmarks you require for team members to adhere to?
Well, League of Legends is actually not a very computer intensive game, so you can get away with running it on a pretty low end machine for the most part. But the biggest difference I would have to say is, if you don't have a dedicated facility, some students are playing on their dorm Wi-Fi and such. So it's and as Paul was saying, it's such an important thing, just having even a consistent connection in these kinds of competitive environments.
Right. So for both you and Paul, how do you spec out the equipment that your players use and the networks you play on? I know, Aaron, it's a bit different from your perspective, but would love to hear about what you guys are doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, so for us, we're just trying to stay up with the latest and greatest equipment. When the new equipment comes out, the graphic cards and things of that nature, we're trying to stay there. Right now, I have a student staying up late. He's trying to get the new PS5. And so we play on all the different systems. We have the PCs and consoles, and we have 35 stations in here. And so with our equipment, like I said, with Mike Everett with ITSS, he runs all the big, for GalaxyCon that came into Raleigh. There, so we've worked directly with him, and we're usually able to get some top-notch equipment through him. And so that's where I think some of the other schools in the area too have also been using him to get their equipment needs serviced. But yeah, we're always trying to stay up with the latest and greatest as much as we can. So.
Yeah, there's really like nothing to be done on the side of like we'll call them, club teams. I mean, without funding from like a university or like any type of sponsorship, it's really just left on the players to be able to field their own equipment. And I mean, for the most part, the players are typically passionate about the games that they're playing anyway. So like, I think most esports athletes are playing on decent equipment. Maybe not like the latest or anything like that, but hopefully passable.
So earlier on in the night, we had two professional coaches on who talked a bit about what coaching is like from their perspective. If we compare traditional collegiate sports to esports, are there any parallels you can draw from a coaching perspective? What does it look like to coach in esports, and what are the tools that you have in your coach's toolbox?
Yeah, so I guess I've done a little bit of both within coaching traditional sports and esports. The big differentiator between traditional esports, especially at the collegiate level, is that our athletes can earn money. So they are competing for money. I think we had our Fortnite team is competing for $150,000 this semester. They win, and so they get to keep that. And so that's different than the NCAA.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different where there's no real differentiation between professional and amateurism in esports. So that's definitely different in how you do your recruiting and things of that nature too. Also, you know, it's having the ability to coach remotely. So a lot of the games, I'll actually be working from home. And so I'll be in and working with the students that way. Like we had 2K and our Call of Duty teams. I'm actually synced in from at home and watching the game and seeing what's going on. So having that ability to be remote, I think is really cool with esports too. So I think that's something that's very different and very exciting about esports. And it also, I think the other cool thing about esports is and the reason for the recent rise, I mean, it's absolutely massive. For some of you who haven't followed esports, I'm also an assistant professor of sport management on campus. And when we look at these trends, it's just incredible where you see League of Legends, the game that we're playing tonight, the viewership of that, I believe last year surpassed the Super Bowl, over 100 million views. And so these games, yeah, they're just incredibly large. And so just seeing where it's going in the future is really exciting. And but it also provides a level playing field. It doesn't matter what your size and your physical ability is. You can be a gamer and you can compete. I think that's another great thing about it, is that it opens up the world, you know, to be competitive to anybody, no matter who you are.
It's really great points. What about you, Aaron?
I definitely think that that I didn't even consider the money aspect of like NCAA versus like collegiate League of Legends. I hadn't even thought about that. As somebody who's not won scholarship money myself, you know, it hasn't occurred to me. I do think a pretty huge difference in like traditional sports versus esports, at least in the current era, is that a lot of coaches, I think I noticed this at the pro level too, are also children. Like there aren't, I mean, a lot of former pros become coaches, and they're kids in their 20s who are, you know, as relatively inexperienced in life and such. And so I think that in traditional sports, you typically have older and wiser figures as head coaches than you do in esports. And I don't think that like I didn't even have a coach for the first years that I played the game at the collegiate level, just to like show that there's like how little infrastructure there was. But yeah, I think.
So Aaron, I want to ask you a little bit about your background too. I know you have a degree in computer science, and it's interesting to look at the data analytics driving coaching techniques and solutions. What do you do when you're looking at your team tactics and strategies? What does that data analytics side look like behind the scenes?
For the most part, I mean, we do collect some general statistics about like how our team fares in scrimmages, but it's not a statistically significant amount, given that my roster is like just formed this year, or we have a newly formed roster, and with something like 60 sample games and so many variables in it, you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt. But I think I'm not sure exactly how developed the data analytics field is for League of Legends at the moment. I know that data drives a lot of other training regimens, like in sports, right? You have a lot of exercise regimens being built explicitly on data analytics. So I don't think that we're anywhere close to that in League at the moment. I'd like to see us get there, but at our level, honestly, the most we use statistics for is just looking at online. We'll call it like pickup basketball almost. It's a solo queue ladder where people play against each other in a competitive environment, obviously to win, but it's not as constructed as anything like collegiate or professional. So we do look at data that is available publicly for, again, also some very general statistics, but yeah, I can't say it's too important for my team at least.
Gotcha. Let's talk to Harrison and Mitchell a bit. Guys, what's the difference between playing recreationally and players playing on a professional or collegiate level?
So for esports, there's kind of like two main aspects of it for more recreational and then like the competitive side. The first is you just have to like be good at the game. Like you have to put in a lot of time,
That's
put
fair.
a lot of practice, which is very similar to like actual sports, right? You just got to put in the time, you got to practice. But then when it comes down to like recreationally and competitive, there's a lot of strategies that in competitive and professional or collegiate play that you won't really see as much recreationally. Recreationally, people are usually just, playing with their friends for fun. They're trying like goofy strategies just to mess around. Like, hey, I'm doing really well on this strategy that's not supposed to be that good. Where competitive, just a lot more about like optimizing your time, optimizing like your different build paths or your different champions or your characters. So it's just a lot more optimization and different strategies, whether it be macro level, kind of like in terms of the whole game and like working around the map, or micro level with your individual champion, like with your actual game mechanics.
Gotcha. What about you, Mitchell? What do you think?
Kind of piggybacking off that, a lot of what makes recreational and competitive apart is playing, like you said, for, I'm going to do this because I find it fun, compared to, I'm going to do this because this is what proven works. So you have that line of playing for fun and playing for getting better, succeeding, making a name for yourself for glory.
Awesome. So, Mitchell, I know that you are involved in the NACE, which is the National Association of Collegiate Esports, and that organization started in 2016 and is growing quite rapidly. Where do you see collegiate esports going?
For me, I see collegiate esports kind of making its place alongside, if not kind of above, recreational sports as an entertainment field, because it's a lot easier to access. It's a lot more available for everyone. Like Paul was saying, anyone can pick up a controller or a PC and play the game, rather than being a certain way, being a certain height, having a certain physical ability. For the most part, having esports grow and become like the next big sport, and having people who go into this and put the time, the dedication, the mentality into it, getting kind of like the same recognition as professional athletes do in their games.
So this next one I'll throw out there for all of you to answer. We'll go Harrison, Mitchell, Aaron, Paul. What advice do you have for newly forming teams? Harrison?
Oh my. That is a loaded question because there's so much you need to do as a newly formed team, right? Granted, I've been on the NC State League of Legends team for now my 4th year, and it's had different iterations every year, right? Because obviously it's a college team, so players graduate, which is unlucky because we'd love to keep them. But so in terms of a new team, I think there's a lot of things that you need to start, just because you can't just immediately jump into the game and start playing because you need to build the team cohesion and you need to build your teamwork up, whether that be like getting together outside of the game with like team dinners or with different meetings just to talk to each other, get to know each other. Because there's actually a lot of elements that like in the game, you need to have out of the game to do well in the game, if that makes sense. Whether that be like trust. So it's like in the game, oh, I'm going to go for this play. Like if you say that and your teammates trust you, it's going to work because you know, they believe you, but they have to build that trust outside of the game. So my first step is always just teamwork activities, build trust with your teammates. And yeah, just team bonding really.
It's great advice. Mitchell.
For me, one of the big things which comes with getting good at a game is having the right mentality about it. So you can't just expect to be playing well and thinking, oh, I'm good enough. Once you hit that loss, you like hit a downpour. You need to have this mentality of, oh, I did great, but I can do better. Oh, I did bad. This is what I can work on. So having that mindset to constantly improve, not just playing to play and not just playing with every single expectation to win. You have to play to expect to learn something new, and winning's a benefit.
Good advice. Aaron.
I think that, again, I will piggyback here for sure. That you do have to just accept that the first few weeks, typically for most new forming teams, are really bad. Like no team really comes together. Very few teams come together and just start rolling and just destroy everyone else. It typically takes like a bit of trial and error and a lot of error in order to start developing an understanding for what your team's identity should be. And definitely accepting that it's just a process and that you don't have to win every game.
Yeah, we have a saying, loses improve.
It's a good saying. I think that applies a lot in all aspects of our lives. How about you, Paul? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think right here you're seeing three great young coaches that are coming out and growing into the field. And it's just such a fast growing industry. And what we're doing even right now, I'm teaching a college course on esports management coming up because the field is growing so rapidly that not only are we needing college coaches, but also high schools. So the state high school associations, I believe there's like 32 state high school associations that are now sanctioning esports competitions. And so you're seeing this rapid rise of great coaches rise, like where Aaron was saying, you know, they're very young coaches come up. And so it's an exciting time for me to be a coach. I guess I feel kind of young myself, but yeah, the majority of coaches that I do come with, many of them are fresh out of college, and it's exciting. So I think it's just an exciting time overall for esports in general and the growth of the industry for sure.
Awesome. So Harrison and Mitchell, most people are familiar with collegiate sports and understand that there's a tremendous amount of physical training involved. I assume you guys aren't hitting the weight room. What is your practice and training regimen like? Do you do anything special to prepare for your tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I can go first. So no, I personally don't hit the weight room, but I will say a healthy body is a healthy mind, and a healthy mind is good for competitive games in general. So it is a recommendation to work out, you know, even if you are just playing video games. Personally, I'm not. I don't know if you can tell, but I don't really fall into that category. However, in terms of our practice for NC State teams, our varsity team, we typically our average week, I guess, for practice is we would go 1 to 2 scrimmages a week, and then we usually play in 1 to 2 tournaments as well, which kind of like go monthly. And then in addition, we like to have at least 1 meeting a week. On average, just try and like review the week, and then in addition to preparation is what we really like pride ourselves on here at State, to be honest. As we're a student-led club, it's like we all just kind of get together and we work on Word documents. Ooh, it's so fun. But we prep a ton. We have an extensive Google Drive folder. We have so many Word documents, Excel sheets, just to prep for upcoming teams, and then just like kind of like Aaron was talking about earlier with like the data analytics side, just to like keep track of our past successes, what we're doing well, maybe a certain champion that we're playing that's really, it loses all our games. Like maybe we shouldn't play that champion. So in terms of the practice and like the regimen, we have a pretty busy week for a club. Then again, I guess it's an esport as well. So we have a lot of scrimmages, a lot of practices, a lot of tournaments, and we also try and do some team bonding. Typically a lot more during the beginning phase of the team. Then we kind of just ease into it naturally. But like scheduled team bonding, I guess, is more at the beginning.
Awesome. I hear my husband in the background saying he's going to go back to college and join the esports team now. How about you, Mitchell?
So again, like I agree, I'm not one to typically go to the weight room, but I do try to maintain myself while I'm out. Like if I realize that I'm not in the healthiest shape, I work on that. I see, okay, what do I need for myself? And I make sure I have that. As for practices, what my team likes to do is every day we try to meet for at least 2 hours, just to practice. In the off time, I'm also working on scouting the enemies, making sure, okay, this guy plays a lot of this champion, is really good with this champion, so we need to focus out these and these, and we need to generate comps around these and these. And typically Saturdays, we have our season competitions with Collegiate Star League. And on that day, we spend a little, or like an hour and a half of playing just casually. And then spending the other half getting ready for our opponents.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That's great. So I mentioned earlier that some of the best game design studios are here in our state. I know a few of them have some pretty highly anticipated games coming out. Harrison, I'll start with you. What new games or new equipment are you most excited to come out in the next year?
Oh, I might not be the best person to ask this question because I play on a laptop and I play League of Legends. That's more or less
your
about
game,
it.
huh?
Exactly.
I play a little bit of random other games here and there. I really enjoyed Valorant when it came out, another game by RIoT. I recently have been playing Hearthstone randomly. I think they have an expansion that comes out in a few weeks. That's a card game by Blizzard. But it's pretty much, I mainly just play League of Legends. So, I mean, I guess I'm excited. I'm excited for any Pokemon game that ever comes out. I'm always waiting for the Diamond and Pearl remakes, waiting for those for the Switch, because I did get a Switch. Finally, after I was like a year late, but I got it. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask, but I guess any Pokemon game that would come out in the near future. Or yeah, also RIoT has a new game. I think it's an RPG that's coming out called The Ruin King or something. That seems exciting. So maybe I'll try and pick that up.
Nice. How about you, Mitchell?
Kind of on the same page where he is. I'm typically playing on my laptop and all that such. So I don't have like a lot of other games that I play. And I play League for the most part of my time. I recently just started picking up Rocket League again. I used to play back in 2016, and I just played my placements, and I'm Plat 1, so who knows where I'll go from there. I don't know what other games I would be interested in. I guess Ruin King when it comes out, because I'm also kind of into those RPG things. I also play a lot of Teamfight Tactics, which is a sub-game within League of Legends, which is Auto Battler or Auto Chess. So it's a fun little side game, and it has its own different strategies and such, which I like.
Cool. So, Harrison, I know you mentioned you've been playing for 4 years, so I'm going to interpret that to mean that you're going to be graduating soon. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
How has playing esports helped you expand your college career, and do you think any of those experiences translate to skills for your future professional career?
Oh, without a doubt. It's not even close. I think that being a part of a competitive team here at State, being a part of the club, not only has it helped me kind of like, I mean, I've always kind of been like introvert. I still feel like I am an introvert, even though people say you're extroverted, you're extroverted. I still feel like I'm an introvert. I feel like it's helped me grow out of my kind of introverted shell. Just because, you talk to other people, you make friends. It's really given me like a home here at State. Like, I feel like I belong, kind of thing. In addition to just the teamwork and like the cooperation, the communication, it's crazy how much this has helped. Not only because like you're communicating out a game, like, oh, hey, like we have to study this, and like, oh, that goes into research as well. Like I've studied so much research for different teams and like preparation, but also within the game, like different communicating, understanding how to like when you need to be concise with things, when you need to be more elaborate, when you need to just understanding different communication within the game. I go on and on, honestly, but there's been so many skills that I've learned, and it's honestly amazing.
That's fantastic. So when I was doing my research for this, I found out that the earliest known video game competition happened in 1972 at Stanford University, where students competed in the game Space Wars. So today, let's recreate history, RIoT style, with an exhibition game between Barton and NC State. Harrison and Mitchell, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, and good luck to your teams in the game. If you can all hang tight for a few minutes while the players get set up. While this is happening, Aaron, can you tell us a little bit what we're going to be seeing in the game? And Paul, when you're ready, go ahead and get Twitch up.
Yeah, I mean, where do we start? Am I like explaining the game at the most basic level? I mean, League of Legends is like, we'll be experiencing the game from a top-down perspective as the players play. So you have this little avatar that you're playing through called a champion, and with the 5 players versus 5 players, you're going to have 10 characters on the map, and basically we're just watching them fight for control of like space on the map, and that's like the most general thing. You've got 2 corners of the map. Basically, like if you had a stationary king in chess, just put it at opposing corners of the map. And each team is just trying to crash into the enemy team's base and destroy the king or something like that. Yeah.
Awesome. My first League of Legends game, so I'm really excited about that. Paul, are we all set?
Yeah, we're getting there. They're just getting the stream set up now, so I will go ahead and I will take our account up, and then we should be ready to go. So just give me a moment here, and then we'll go ahead and get set. And I think they're just drafting right now,
awesome.
And we'll take it from there.
So everybody out in the audience, drop in your chat. What games do you play? What game are you excited to see in the next couple months? Alexander says, Among Us? Oop. Oh, and you know what? We do have a question. So Joe asked, just curious what kinds of tools tech have helped with training, evaluating matches, prepping. And if you had the ear of the tech industry, what would you ask them to help in your sport? Great question, Joe. Thank you.
I guess I can go. So a huge resource I mentioned earlier is the ability to look into like the kind of pickup basketball data that everyone plays on, and that's like the primary way that the teams scout each other. I mean, I don't want to leak too many strats as to how you should find other teams more like secure, like private stuff. Because there's always a way. People will typically stream their practice matches in some form or another, and if you do enough digging, you can find stuff that people didn't intend to leak. But the biggest thing I think is using the online data that people have, and those are like community created tools.
Awesome. Thanks again for the question, Joe. Tom Snyder, RIoT's executive director, has a vote for SimCity. What do you guys think about that? I see those laughs. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited for God of War Valhalla. I can't wait for the follow-up. That's such an amazing game, just so beautiful across the board. Like aesthetically, the storyline, the gameplay is just everything's there. It really is a 10 out of 10 game. SimCity, oh man, the city builders are always so tedious. Like you get so invested in one little section, you just forget that the rest of your city's burning to the ground. Like, I don't know.
Tom loves it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of have to be present for this drafting phase. In part, I should be. I think that the team is going to be in Discord talking amongst themselves, but I don't know if they want me to be there with them. I will check. Just one second.
Worries. We're just getting things started, everybody. So thank you again for your patience. How about everyone listening? How many of you have watched an esports event online? First time, Brad. That's awesome. Catherine? All right.
Yeah, so we are just finishing setting up here. I believe they're going into the draft, and then we're going to go ahead and get started on the screen. So you will see the screen update, and then we'll go ahead and get started. On the chat here, I can also send you wanted the link, was that correct?
That would be great if you can drop that into the chat box. That'd be awesome. So like Caroline just mentioned, at 6:45, we're going to close the session and open back up all of the virtual exhibiting tables and networking. But if anybody'd like to continue to watch the match, the link to the Twitch feed is now in the chat. So you guys can continue to do that.
Great, yeah, and we can answer any questions that you have right now about the game or things. I'm sure Aaron can really, being the direct League of Legends person, he can really provide some insights for the game.
Awesome. So yeah, let's open that up. Any questions about League of Legends? Pop them in the chat. So I'm assuming on the screen right now is what the drafting looks like?
Yeah, so this is actually an external tool as well called ProDraft, but it does mirror the functionality of what draft looks like in the game. So this is a phase of the game where the characters, the champions, are being picked. So teams can't like share characters or anything like that. It's mutually exclusive. So there's a certain like sub-layer strategy in picking the right characters in the right order, because a character's functionality might be specifically hard countered by some other character that exists in the pool of champions that people can play. And so that you can't pick whatever you want whenever you want. So teams have to go through this snake draft where one person picks one character, the other team picks two. After this, NC State's going to pick two characters, and then it'll go back to Barton where they'll pick one more character, and then there's a second phase where we ban characters so that way neither team can pick them, whether those characters just be particularly strong in their own right, or if it's just a specific character that the enemy team plays, or if it's just a character that counters kind of the functionality of the total team composition that you're drafting towards.
Awesome. So there's two kind of the same questions in the chat about do you all play any additional games beside League of Legends, or is this a primary focus?
So we definitely do. So we have over 6 different games that we compete in at Barton. So we're also playing League of Legends is our big one. Then we play Fortnite, Madden, NBA 2K, Call of Duty, and then Super Smash Brothers is the other one. So that we're sanctioning right now. And so those are games. And League of Legends, this game that you're going to see tonight, and like Aaron was stating so well, there's so much strategy involved within these characters that they're choosing right now, or their champions, that there's a lot of strategy that's going on behind the scene, and it's very a game. When you're hearing Mitchell, and Aaron talk about, and Harrison too, especially talking about their strategies and how they're going to. It's very incredible on how much work that they put into researching these champions, and also going in. I mean, when you're looking at NC State as a club team did tremendously make it into the championships, and so they have an incredible team, and where they're ranked. And we had a question before about data analytics and how do we utilize data analytics. Next week, I'm going to be sitting on a panel with Intel Insights, and so they're actually going to be running a combine. So very similar to like your NFL combine draft, they're going to be doing it with high schoolers looking to get college scholarships. So we'll be awarding a $5,000 scholarship to a student next week as part of this Intel Inspires. And so, it's incredible for me as a coach. It's very difficult to keep up with all these games. That's why you say Mitchell, he's actually one of our team captains. And so as a team captain, he's really responsible for setting up the practices and making sure that we stay up with the latest patches and and game flow. And so that's where I'm seeing, it's really exciting when you're seeing young professionals like Aaron come up and, who would just come through and really are going to drive the esports industry forward. It's really exciting time for me. When I was in college, it was kind of the first time that esports was coming about, when Halo 1 was coming. And we would play, it's really kind of when the internet came out. Yeah, and I'm kind of aging myself now, right? But to see where it's at right now, it's just incredible. And, being in the Raleigh area too, it's amazing. We had the help that we've been able to get from Epic, and having a representative come down and help us with our arena and just the location. I think Raleigh was voted one of the top 10 cities for esports in the country.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very exciting time and a very good location to be with this. So it'll be an exciting match tonight. I think that when I'm looking at their data analytics, we might be a little bit overmatched, but they were scouting out this team, so we will kind of see how we fare tonight for sure.
Awesome. Do you play a game when you're spare time, Paul?
Yeah, so I'm actually very good at Madden football. So that's kind of what I aim my chops on. So this last weekend on Saturday, we were hosting Conference Carolinas is getting into esports. And so we were the digital hub for that esports championship for Madden. And so with Greenlight there, it became in big too for us to be able to host these kind of championships. So yeah, so I like the traditional games, the NBA 2Ks and FIFA. But it's so hard to keep up with new games. Like our students have a new Call of Duty game coming out on Friday, I believe. And so just having to keep up with the games, it's pretty incredible. So League of Legends is one that I try to keep up with, but there's so much strategy to it that it's very difficult for me to keep up with. But I'm thankful to have people like Mitchell here that can really, be at the razor's edge of it. So.
Awesome. Well, before we get started, we have one more question in the chat. How often do changes to your champion's ability occur, and how disruptive is it to your strategies and approaches? Do you ever have advance notice to those changes?
Yeah, so Riot Games, the publisher of League of Legends, they have a public beta environment server that like anybody can sign up for, and so they'll throw changes to the game that will be pushed to the live servers with some time. And even like after changes have been like committed to the live servers, they'll give you like a 2-week advance on when things will be changed. So you have more or less a month to know. You can kind of tell that the champion's going to get altered or nerfed in the biz if like they're highly prominent for so long. I mean, they typically don't let characters stay on the top of the ecosystem for more than a couple months. Riot's okay at making sure that one character doesn't stay too prevalent and take up too much space. But yeah, so we do obviously consider if we're deciding to learn new champions or whatever, like whether or not the character will get nerfed in the future. But sometimes these nerfs can happen and it will drag down the solo queue win rates a little bit. But in competitive, I think that a lot of times it might just be more important for teams to focus in on what they're like what characters they're good at and they understand, so much as like who appears as strong. Because I think that a lot of times people will move away from strategies that they're actually more effective with just because in the greater picture, it's perceived as a weaker strategy, even though if you understand the strategy better, it's probably better used than something you don't understand. But yeah, we do have to change some of our strategies based off of the alterations to these characters.
Good to know. So looks like we're getting started, but as I know absolutely nothing about this, I don't want to make assumptions. What are we looking at?
Okay. So this is what the draft looks like in the game itself, and we're just running through it a second time because you have to pick the characters in the game. But the reason we don't do that and we use that alternate tooling system is just because so you have to actually buy the characters not like with real money, but you can, but like typically through earned currency in the game. And so not everybody owns every character, and so this becomes an issue when like you want to first pick a character, but your your player in that position doesn't own all the characters. So we just use the pro draft tool to simulate it. So this is what it would look like in game for players and for competitive events as well. But I think we'll just have to wait 3 minutes after this, and then we'll get into the game.
Awesome. So anybody out there play League of Legends? Paul, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I'm just saying one thing to be considerate of, Aaron is just very, very in-depth and strategic with this. And one thing to understand is that some of these players may be going professional and so making a career out of this. And so it's something that, a lot of people don't really see when it comes to esports, but it is also a career from an athletics perspective and things of that nature as well that, being able to go to the pros and make a living off of this too is an option for some of these students. In a lot of these games, it's pretty impressive. So,
yeah, it's a completely viable path in my opinion for so each professional scene is kind of split up by region. So like we have North America, Europe West, Europe East, Korea, Japan, et cetera, et cetera. One of these being Oceania, and it being like another English-speaking region. There's a natural transition for those kinds of players to be able to make it in North America, but it's kind of hard to market yourself as a player to professional teams when you're in an entirely different region. So I think the collegiate scenes or collegiate scholarships are like definitely a foot in the door for you to be able to migrate servers and be able to like network with people in the American scene.
So what I'm hearing is I shouldn't necessarily tell my son that he can't play professional gaming when he's ready.
I mean, you can encourage your children to play esports at the highest level, but I mean, esports, like any other sporting field, is incredibly difficult to make it to the top, and only a small number do. So definitely don't hinge your dreams and hopes on becoming a professional, the next like Ninja or Faker or anything like that, because they really are 1 in 7 billion. But yeah, sorry, I kind of trail off into nowhere at the end of my statements. Horrible for presentation.
Nah, that's awesome. So Brad from SAS, one of Riot's awesome sponsors, is asking, do we know who Harrison and Mitchell will be playing in the game?
Yeah, so Harrison is Wolf Skull Rider. He's the 5th or the 4th character on the left side of the screen. The character he's playing is named right above him, Ezreal. And I am not sure about Mitchell. I do not remember.
Yeah, so Mitchell is BC Kerbos, so he's going to be playing with Ornn tonight. So you'll be able to see them in action and really going forward. So yeah, this is I'm happy that Aaron's here to be so very analytical with the game and giving you some deep dives into the real strategies of it. Because it's very, very strategic, and just know that they're all talking to each other on mics throughout the game too that you likely won't hear here, but it's very much a team-based game, and they're talking to each other throughout.
Awesome. One other follow-up question before we get going says, do most people go pro as a solo or as part of a team?
Back in the day, before franchising for League of Legends specifically, the professional League of Legends was kind of a wild west, and in that, like, if you were a bottom feeding team in the highest pro league, it was called the LCS League Challenger Series. There was a feeder league below that called the Challenger Series, and if you were like a top challenger team, you could qualify into the pro league by just fight, like you would get a placement match or whatever versus the bottom teams in the pro league, and you could make it as like a full 5-man roster. But since the league is franchised at this point, and there's really they'll be looking to add more teams in the future where it's just created by already existing organizations. It's far more likely in the current age to make it as a solo player.
So it looks like our game is up and running. Thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of the panel. Just a reminder, guys, we're going to turn the live feed off in about 5 to 10 minutes and invite everybody back to the networking section. Thank you again to Fourscore Law, our awesome title sponsor for tonight, and thank you to all of our sponsors. Paul, Aaron, you guys are the best. Thank you again.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I also included the link in the chat, so if anyone wants to see and go watch on Twitch, you can see it there as well. It looks like Carolyn's providing it too, so good.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I guess in the meantime, oh, hold on. I think my
volume. Maybe you want to talk some strategy here through everything and have a look at it. Just
right. So this is the beginning of the game. Obviously, we're a minute and 40 seconds into it. And this is like the phase of the game that we'll call laning phase. You can see on the bottom right corner is the mini map, our representation of the actual field that we're playing on. I'm just looking for a way to turn down your share screen, but I don't know if it is. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. So in this phase of the game, sorry. So you can see on the map that there's like 3 lines that break up the map. The 2 side lanes called top and bottom, and the mid lane, aptly named mid lane. And you have minions that spawn in these lanes every 30 seconds, and what these minions do is they'll just run into each other and kill each other, but they provide experience points in gold, so that way your character can level up and get items that make them stronger as the game progresses. And so you have different characters with different strengths as far as the timeline of a game goes. So some characters are more geared towards early fighting versus late game scaling. Just trying to wait for your character to become stronger. So I think this game, we've kind of got an early pressure composition where, at least top side, we've got a pretty strong jungle, but it doesn't scale like amazingly. It's probably more geared towards the middle of the game. Something like 20 minutes into the game is where our composition would really shine. I think Barton's is definitely a later scaling composition, but can snowball if they get ahead. There's a decent amount of pick potential or abilities to catch others at a position to lock them down and make sure that they are held in place while we try and murder them, or while Barton tries to murder us. So as I was saying, there's three lanes that divide the map, and so you have these minions running into each other, and you have 5 players who are actually trying to split resources across the map, and 5 is actually greater than 3, so you don't have everybody funneling the same amount of resources into them. In between the lanes, there's also an area for characters to collect resources called the jungle, and here we see NC State and Barton clashing, trying to contest for these objectives to try and steal neutrally accessible gold and experience away from each other in an effort to get yourself ahead and put the enemy behind. So right now 0-0, not a whole lot happening. In competitive, it tends to be a lot slower than in pickup basketball. Sorry, I kind of have to get nervous every time I watch something happen on screen. You see one of your players get hit by something and just wonder if they're going to die the next second. But it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It doesn't look like anybody is in position to die in the next couple minutes either. You can see on the bottom right corner of the map or of the screen here again the positions of the players. So if you look, there are. It's so hard without cursor to point for y'all, but so we've got some fighting happening here on the bottom of the map, and because NC State has what we call priority in that they're able to push out the minion wave before the enemy can, they're actually able to move towards skirmishes that are happening in neutral territory faster than Barton's bottom lane there would be able to. Just a little bit of fighting up here in the top lane. We've got two melee characters who like to melee each other, and it looks like they're just going all out, both walking away with very little